we've seen this movie before. It's the same movie when Republicans get in office. They start wars and do tax cuts and take away benefits that help the public. It's rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying?
And
it's
they
like
lose the next election, and then
they lose the next election, and then we have collective amnesia again.
Welcome back into the Armchair Politics Podcast. My name is David Coe. With me, as always, is Alex Smith and Dr. Christopher Carter. We have got we got paper flying around on today's show because we are going to be talking about where our tax dollars go to. I'm super excited to dive into our budget because, like we were talking about, your budget is a moral document of your values in black and white, and I think it's going to be really enlightening to hear about what we value as a country in America. Dr. Carter, what's going on in your world today?
Oh, life is lifing, but it is literally,
You got two
I'm
dads
surviving
on this podcast.
I know.
On spring
I'm
break,
just
so
like,
we're tired.
Exactly. I'm like, we're talking about war, and I'm like, am I winning the battle at home? I don't know, man. The battle against, he was like, maybe not.
It's attrition.
May lose the battle. I gotta win the war. Just gotta win the war. That's what they say.
Our kids are the Viet Cong. Let's be honest. We're winning the battle. They're winning the war.
Oh God! He said the Viet Cong. Like,
I can't wait for the kids to hear it.
Oh man!
So my attitude with putting out content is I'm going to put out so much content that there's no way my child's going to be able to absorb it all.
That's fair.
Right? You just inundate them with just so much stuff. Overwhelmed by it. Yeah. So really quick, I want to jump in. So, because I work at a law firm that also does tax law. So we are very, very, very busy right now, and into the swing of things. So if you have not filed your taxes and you don't think you'll make it by the 15th, you better file that extension. Now, the key is, if you file an extension, you still will need to give an estimated payment. Otherwise, if you just file an extension with no payment at all, you will get interest.
Uncle Sam say you better have my money today.
Look, hey, Johnny Law will be sending you letters and be like, hey, I'm glad you paid your taxes in October. By the way, here's the interest because you didn't give us a payment in April. So this is so interesting because rich folks talk about taxes in a way in which like poor folks, when they think about taxes, it's like soul crushing in a way that it's just like, oh my God, moving money around. And then, rich people who don't even have to really think about the money that they're giving, that they are paying in terms of taxes. They're the ones who you think they're not going to make it till tomorrow. And that's the dichotomy in our world. The wealthier people have a scarcity mindset. Poor people are some of the best accountants you will find. And so that's what I've learned in my experience is that scarcity mindset within the wealthy. And I think, when you have a government that's asking for $200 billion for a continued war, an illegal war, now right around tax season, you know what I'm saying?
It's always money in the banana stand for war.
Yeah, but thing is, at first I thought maybe they were like asking for. See, look, now you got him choking.
Sorry, Arrested Development. Oh, sorry. All right, that got me. Arrested Development. That was great, David. Sorry, go ahead, Carter.
Delightful.
No, I think I was thinking, okay, were they asking for a bunch of money because they know that they're actually going to get less? But then actually, the more they kept talking about it, I was like, no, actually, I think they were just like, we think we just asking for it. But they're all, they're all in cahoots, man. Like, you were reading about Pete Hexas, somebody who helped, one of his financial advisors tried to buy into some defense stocks, but then wasn't able to before the Iran war. Like, it's just all this crazy stuff is coming out in terms of how they are all just trying to make money on money on money.
I love that. I mean, we know that the Trump administration is basically just one big grift. It's basically like
it's so corrupt.
Trump is essentially it's like a movie. It's like, what if we elected a mobster president?
Yeah,
and,
right.
But my favorite is that like he's hired such drunk idiot sycophants that like sometimes like they can't even do the self-dealing right.
Yeah. Right. I can't. Whenever we get into an episode where we're talking about just like, I don't know how we would frame it, but just the incompetence, like ranking people on competence, right? Whatever that's gonna be.
That's a great
They're
episode.
so incompetent.
And
I'm just like, because it is
ranking the Trump
shocking.
administration based on competence. We're gonna do
Yeah.
it right now, but that's done.
It's shocking because so when we think about like what's happened in this war, right? And this is what I mean. Like, so the things that just Trump or Hegseth say over and over, they make no sense. So they're like, okay, did you think about the Strait of Hormuz when you attacked Iran? You tell they didn't, right? And so then it's been closed, and they're talking about Iran's like, oh, we're gonna basically charge a toll, and they're like, we're not gonna. We're gonna obliterate it so that we can take control of Hormuz. Oh no, it's gonna be me and the Ayatollah is what Trump said. It's gonna be controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And then they're like, well, you know what? We don't really get out of our oil and stuff in the Strait of Hormuz. So if y'all gotta figure out how to pay a toll, that's on y'all because Europe didn't want to come help. And Europe is like, hey man, we ain't start no war. We ain't going there and bomb nothing. How you gonna go in there and blow it up? Then be like, oh, we got to pay, and then get mad at us for not coming in to help. Like that, it literally doesn't make any sense, right? And so what's happening is you have this, way of obviously going to a space, causing all kinds of chaos, not trying to take accountability for how it's happening. And then from my perspective, like I said, actually thinking about it and using religion to justify it. Now, I just had, I should have said it to both of y'all, but I just wrote an essay, a Substack essay on the myth of redemptive violence, because I think this really captures a lot of what they're doing. But let me share a little bit of the prayer that our Secretary of Defense has come up, Secretary of War.
Oh no, wait, David, let's get into this.
So Hex says he prayed that God would pour out righteous wrath by helping break the teeth and kill the wicked enemies who deserve no mercy and should be delivered to the eternal damnation prepared for them. And he did so during the service on Wednesday, March 25th, while carrying up to the podium what looked like his Bible that's stamped on a cover with the Jerusalem cross in the phrase "Volt," which means God wills it, thus matching the controversial Crusader tattoos on his body. So this idea, right, that God wills him, that this is some kind of divine holy war, right? I mean, literally talking about Crusader language using this prayer. And this isn't even like this is wild. You know what I'm saying? Like this is, and like he's doing this at the Pentagon in a prayer thing when it's like these are all Christians. Like this isn't all. It's just like he's just
Christian nationalism.
It is blasphemy. I know this isn't a religion podcast. This is what this is. It is insane that someone can get up front and think that it's okay for them to do this in a ostensibly a secular space. And then to think that God actually values prayers like this, or the Pope actually, and I'm not Catholic, man, but the Pope said, "Hey, your prayers go nowhere, but you pray when you pray for war." And I was like, "See, look, this Pope gonna make me Catholic. This Pope out here,
Leo's
first of all, he's secret black, and we all know he kind of like he's secret black.
New Orleans, baby.
I'm like, so, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's that's wild. So let's start in. We're already talking about defense spending, so we're gonna start with I think it's 22% of our national budget is that we spend on our imperialistic mission. I think so. Just staying on the Iran war, we have spent $3 billion already this war on Tomahawk cruise missiles alone. One type of missile alone, we've spent $3 billion on it. And this leads me to, I think, one of my biggest points about the defense spending. We can make an argument, we can and probably will make arguments about what kind of value we're getting as American citizens or people living in America on our defense spending, on our military spending. I think it's important to get into that. But what I want to start with is just the machinations a little bit of defense spending, because that's where I have my biggest problems. So on top of the money we're spending on Tomahawk missiles alone, we've fired so many missiles that we're running out of them. We're firing missiles in this war faster than we can replenish them by like a margin of like 12. Like we're firing more missiles in a month than we can make in a year. And so our defense spending that has essentially an unlimited budget, because they have this unlimited, even with this unlimited budget, we're still not able to effectively allocate our resources so that we have resupply. Like, people want to talk about we should run our government like a business. How about we run our military like a business? You know, like, when's the last time the Pentagon has passed an audit?
Yeah.
Not the last.
It's been a long time.
like the last 6 years, we've put an independent auditor into the Pentagon to say, hey, show me where all of your money is. Show me what you have spent all of your money on, and they have not been able to do it. 60% of the Pentagon's money is just missing. The Pentagon doesn't even know what they're spending their money on.
Well, I mean, you know, Pete's getting that, you know, $1 million crab cakes and stuff, and all that. You know, all that stuff that's coming out about. One of the things I want to give you guys just a real historical base. We see defense spending as, so like right now, like David said, 22% of so far this year has been defense spending. And we're only in the kind of the middle of quarter two. So 22%. And that
percentage is going to grow because we're actively at war.
Hello. Now, before World War II, defense spending wasn't really much on the radar. I mean, you obviously had it during the Civil War, and then, you know, we kind of middled around. And so it wasn't until World War II where defense spending spiked to 37%. Remember, we were also doing Lend-Lease. We were also making weapons for the Allied forces in Europe. And so ever since World War II, defense spending has slowly and steadily increased. And you know what's slowly, steadily increased with defense spending is military contractors.
Yes.
So 54% of defense spending goes to military contractors. That's Lockheed Martin. That's Boeing. That's RXT, General Dynamics, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman.
And so let me hop in right there because I want to. One of the things that you've gotten all of them. There's basically 5 major defense contractors, which leads to another major problem in defense spending, is because these 5 big contractors have gobbled up essentially all military contractors. They've created a monopoly, and what happens when when companies create a monopoly? And the customer can only buy their product from one person. The customer in this case being the United States. We end up paying significantly higher prices because we can only get fighter jets from one company. There's only one company that makes it, so they get to set the price. And even on top of that, because we have General Mattis is a great example. General Mattis has went from being a general in the United States Army to a board member of General Dynamics. What's the company's name? Then he became Trump's
General Dynamics.
Then he became Trump's defense secretary. And guess what he's doing right now? On the board of General Dynamics. And so when you've got this self-dealing back and forth with a company that already has a monopoly, I was watching a video that said the United States government was spending $1,500 on a little widget from one of the defense contractors that they could make for $15 themselves.
Yeah. And so, like, this is the stuff where, like, I mean, you're talking about a revolving door. And this happens, I know the other thing we're talking about is food and agriculture. There's another space where the same kind of revolving door happens a lot, where people go from corporations to the government, back to corporations. Whereas, like, in some spaces, so for instance, my wife, who used to work for Social Security Administration, she could not, when she left, she had to, basically, you sign something saying that you won't work for an organization that helps people get Social Security benefits for like 5 years or something. Like, you have to actually opt out of it. And so, like, we could totally, this is normative to make people have like non-compete clauses, right? So, like, this could be done. This is not atypical, but we just we choose not to do it for wealthy people in these higher positions rather than the low government positions, right?
Well, we choose not to do it when there's money to be made. But when the benefits could be increased for poor people for Social Security, then we got to stop that.
Exactly.
And I think let me go ahead. And as usual, I did not set this episode up as fully as I should have. So we're obviously talking about different aspects of the United States government, and we're going to break down, whether we think defense spending is a good investment, for example, whether we think Social Security is a good example, is Social Security a good way to spend our money? The programs that we're going to talk about in whole, we're going to talk about Social Security, we're going to talk about SNAP benefits, we're going to talk about the child income tax credit, we're going to talk about Medicaid, we're going to talk about unemployment insurance, we're going to talk about defense spending, we're going to talk about the spending of interest of our debt. We're going to talk about tax breaks. We're going to talk about spending on the IRS, and we're going to talk about farm subsidies. And we're going to tier all of these into whether they are good investments or bad investments, and what relatively are they excellent or are they just good? And we popped a little bit back onto. We're going to get onto Social Security later, but let's stay on defense spending for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I it's interesting because defense is one of those interesting things where like it's necessary spending. There's a certain amount of money we have to spend on it. At the same time, because just nation state actually having to have a functional. It's interesting because actually a lot of countries don't have a functional military. We have one because we're an imperial power, and so this part of me is like, well, maybe we could actually spend money in other spaces and actually talk about diplomacy and soft power. But this current administration doesn't even understand diplomacy. That's like literally they keep blowing up people they're trying to negotiate with, right? So like that doesn't. So they don't understand diplomacy. At the same time, right, because of the proliferation, nuclear weapons, and all those other kinds of things, there has to be some. What happens is the corruption that's within those departments, as you just said, like it's not getting audited. And so it's like one of those things where it's like we got to spend it, how we're spending is terrible. And it's so funny because that's what the same thing people will say about like welfare, right? They're like, oh, people are wasting money on welfare, or DOGE coming in there. They need to be DOGE in the Pentagon. DOGE that. DOGE that.
Right?
I'm like,
but like actually instead of just the grift that DOGE
exactly.
was. Real quick, a comp came to me. The Trump administration is on whether or not to use force versus diplomacy is like Dan Campbell on fourth down decisions.
Oh man!
Oh my gosh!
Why
did you do that to Carter, man? Dan Campbell's analytics always tell him to go for it, and I'm like, let me see that piece of paper, because I don't think that piece of paper tells you to go for it.
It's just a white sheet of paper with the letters GO on it.
Right, just go for it.
I love his crazy behind though, man.
We stand Dan Campbell here.
You know what got me though, man, is when he first started, like if you look at his staff, it was like almost all black, like all his assistants. I was like, this dude. I was like, I'm like, so that right there told me about he's literally trying to get the best people. He's not worried about anything else. So anyway, that's the opposite of the Trump administration.
What's the Detroit Lions' new D coordinator, Alex?
Oh, Kelvin Shepherd, LSU baby.
Shepard. Yeah, LSU.
Yeah, man. He had a good start of the year, and then it kind of, it was rough. It was rough, but that's my guy, man. That's my guy.
A lot of injuries. I mean, that's the thing, secondary. So so
absolutely.
Like now, I'm literally getting into like 9.
He's thinking about it right
man,
now.
a lot of injuries, secondary. I don't know. I'm like
we're Lions and Saints. We're fans.
So one of the things I thought about when it comes to defense, when you were talking about comps, and I was thinking about the amount of wasteful money, and you got to think about like there is in sports you have contracts that are abhorrent, and they're just like you're not going to get. So I knew you were going to say Albert Hainsworth, 2 years, 110 million. Somebody tell me, was that Washington that did that? Was it worth it? Was it worth it? I was actually going to say something a little bit more current. I was going to say, and I like the guy, but Juan Soto's 15-year, $765 million contract. That feels to me exactly what the defense budget is. It is just bloated waste. So basically, because like you think about, like you said, David, we're spending how many like millions of dollars, billions on a little widget,
$1,500 on a circular widget that we can make.
The Mets are spending $765 million on Juan Soto grounding out into a double play and hitting 260. You know what I'm saying? So, but think about, you're not getting anything on your return, really, and so. Most of government is, as I've learned over studying this over the last week, it's just, man, it's a lot of waste, man. It's just a lot of stuff that just, And
it's so funny. It's so funny that whenever they need more money for the war, Republicans are looking. Obviously last year in Trump's one big beautiful bill, they cut $1 trillion from healthcare spending over the next 10 years that they're claiming is from waste and fraud, that they're not actually cutting any services. It's from, but they've somehow managed to find $1 trillion worth of waste and fraud before they've done the waste and fraud investigation. I'm not sure how that works, but so now because they need more money for this war, they want to cut another $200 billion from Medicare and Medicaid. This is their floating. They haven't introduced a bill yet. They're just talking about this, and it's like, oh, well, we can always find the waste in fraud abuse in our social service programs, but the fact that the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in 6 years isn't a big deal, apparently. Where we care, why do we care about waste and fraud on something that we're spending this much on versus something we're spending that much on? Interesting questions, huh?
Yeah. Go ahead, Carter.
I think that this is the frustrating part for me, and I want to move on to the next. We can cheer this, and then we can move to whichever one you want to do next. But I think this is going to be the through line through so much of what we talk about today. The thing that frustrated me so much about DOGE, right, the government efficiency, was actually, I think the idea, the name and idea is good, right? It's actually good. Like, there is so many things that could be made more efficient within the way our government is structured and funds itself, because you have to have all these backstops in there to make sure that people aren't being exploited, that poor people are being exploited, people of color are being exploited, that there's actual pathways for people to come back and apply for things again, all this other kind of stuff, right? Because of discrimination. Being able to reduce those would be the ideal if we lived in a country where people weren't as discriminatory. Nonetheless, what has happened is the organizations and parts of our government where we know there seems to be inefficiencies, where we can look at it, never get analyzed. It's the assumption that anything that goes to the public good, those are the places where there's exploitation. But what we have found out, and what Alex said early on, is that poor people are some of the best accountants. Like, they actually aren't exploiting things. Like, when they get whatever money they're getting, whether it be the pandemic or whatever, I know we're going to get to this stuff later, they don't spend their money on wasteful things. They save it, they fix resources, or they fix their cars. They do things they need to do to survive. It's honestly, it's wealthy people who continue to waste so much money. So, which to me is like, that is like the backbone of today's episode. So
I'm sorry. The Jeff Bezos needs that second yacht.
Hey, man, I don't know what he would do without it. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, it's really our fault. It's the world's fault. Like, the world has two hemispheres. Jeff Bezos needs two yachts.
I know, and he needs all two of his friends to be
spot.
that. Carter's like, not even. He's like, yo, that shit ain't even funny, man. That shit ain't even funny, man.
Shit, man. So I think we can. Alex, you got anything more to add on defense spending?
No, I mean, I think we covered it, and I think, again, this is Americans are so funny because we don't have a collective real memory. So it's like, ever since World War II is when defense spending became a thing.
Yes.
So this is not new. So we can actually go backwards and find more efficient ways to use our military. And as Carter said, one of the soft power things that my boy JFK used to do was the Peace Corps. Yep. And so you had ways in which, now we were obviously fighting communists, but there were ways in which we were going to different countries and kind of exporting our version of democracy and freedom, even though we weren't. You're right, even though we weren't doing it here.
I'm telling a little bit of a story. Here that it's been passed through the grapevine, but I think it's really fitting. There was an American diplomat talking to an African government official, and the African government official was explaining the difference between American and Chinese power and influence in Africa. And the African official says, whenever China shows up, they're showing up to build a school. Whenever America shows up, they're showing up to lecture us. And the American diplomat starts to go right in to defend that. And the guy goes, here comes the lecture. You talk about ways we could decrease our military spending. We have 800 foreign military bases. Maybe if we just decided that we didn't literally need to be South Park World Police, then we could spend a little bit of less money.
Well, I'll just move on with this. It's just I think it's probably a good button. It's like, we're an imperialist nation and we believe in empire, and empire does not believe in relinquishing its control. Because again, if you look at our cousins in Great Britain, the British Empire were all over the world, from India to Australia, New Zealand, other parts of Asia, and the New World here. Good luck.
So my question is this. I think we can all agree that defense spending is a pretty terrible investment. So I guess my question is, how terrible?
Yeah, I would say like it's terrible, but necessary.
But necessary, yeah.
I think that's where we are, and so like, are we doing the red as the worst investment?
Yeah.
So I think it's a yellow. To me, it's just like that. Or are you orange? You know, I can't be seeing color. I don't know. Whatever that third one is. Yeah, I know I can't see no color, man. I'm like, 'cause to me, it's like it is not a good investment, and yet I think it is a functional necessity based upon our current like globalization. Like we can't not have it basically because of honestly the way we've helped construct the world post World War II to be complete. I was like, yeah, that's basically why. Like so.
We think it's like necessary but fraudulent in a really gross way.
Necessary but fraudulent.
Like, call it a necessary evil.
Yeah.
All right, I can deal with that. Military, necessary evil. Which y'all want to move to something a little bit more uplifting? Y'all want to talk about a child tax credit?
Yeah.
Alex,
Yeah.
I know this is your favorite.
God, let me tell you something. So in 2021, as part of the, I think there was a COVID package, one of the first COVID package that President Biden did. Child tax credit was a part of that, but it was only for 6 months. And in that 6 months, we lifted like, what was it, 60, 70% of children out of poverty. So hold on, let me actually, how many?
I got it right here.
Yeah, okay.
This is from the book Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. He says, the U.S. economy lost millions of jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic, but there were roughly 16 million fewer Americans in poverty in 2021 than there was in 2018. Poverty fell for all racial and ethnic groups. It fell for people who lived in cities and those who lived in rural areas. It fell for the young and the old. It fell most for children. Swift government action didn't just prevent economic disaster, it helped to cut child poverty by more than half. And then you know what we did? We're like, nah.
So,
let's put them kids back in poverty.
You know, like, you know, this is the this is the thing, man. This is the thing, man. And this is where it's like, I gotta rock as a black person, you know how you start rocking and you just so mad, you're just like, God, just be with me. I gotta start rocking. I mean, it is as frustrating, right? Of a thing, because it's a self-inflicted wound. It's like having Aaron Rodgers on your team, just signing him right now. You know, it's a self-inflicted wound. You don't really need him on your team. Why? He's washed up. He's out of his mind. And it's going to be frustrating to watch because he can't stay healthy. And anyway, so it's just like, for me, I just, you know how you just, sports fans just sit there with their arms folded? Sorry, I'm feel like I'm going on this rant, but I'm just like, I'm really, hearing Carter say that just really works me up, because we just got done talking about defense spending. And we just got done talking about all of this money for all of these expenditures and these contractors, and you were able to lift for 6 months half the children in this country out of poverty. And what's interesting is that I knew quite a few people who were like, man, this actually was a boon for us. And David, did you get the child tax credit? Like did you see it? Like, what was it? What was that sense for you? You're muted.
My bad. Listen, getting extra money in your pocket isn't nothing. And it's what, like $300 a month, something like that?
Yep. $300 a
like-
week,
Yep.
depending on where you were. It could be $300 a week.
I think mine ended up being about $300 a month.
A month.
Like that pays for all of my son's groceries for the month. Like that is not an insignificant part of our discretionary budget. You know what I mean? Like that, it actually matters and it actually means something to working families.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Carter.
What up, Isaiah?
Is Isaiah here?
Yeah, Alex, why don't you hop in?
Yeah, so I think, and this is where politics becomes very interesting, because you had Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. I believe they were kind of the ones, and it might have been Joe Manchin who said, because Joe Biden wanted to make the child tax credits permanent, and Joe Manchin was like, no, we can't do that, because everybody always goes back to the deficit. It's like what you said, David. It's like we have money for Tomahawk missiles and everything else, because they view that as valuable and important, but they don't see as valuable and important making sure that children and their families don't slide further into poverty. And I think it's a choice. And I think that it's an absolute choice. And again, it goes back to what you said. Like, our budget is a moral document. And what we're saying is, right, America the Beautiful, our morality is about death and destruction and not about thriving life for its own citizens.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Exactly. In going from talking about defense spending and how much, can you pull up, we've been all the numbers we've been going off of have been off of usaspending.gov. So when we are referencing a number, when we say, that we spend 22%, this year we spent 22% of our federal budget on defense spending alone, we are pulling that directly from the federal government's
Should
website.
I share my screen really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, right here. So you'll see, obviously, we're in 2026. We're in the middle of quarter two, almost towards the end. Right now, you can see that national defense, as David said earlier, is 22.2% of our federal budget right now. So we currently have obligated amounts of $4.4 trillion as of February 27th. So if you look at defense spending, and if you look on the left-hand side, where national defense, currently we have spent $976 billion. Now, remember what we said, that now you want to look here, because it says Department of Defense spending. You don't want to go to the defense-related activities, because this is where the $581 billion, that's only in the middle of quarter two of 2026. Now, we said that 54% of that goes to military contractors. So this, this shows you kind of...
Can we pull up what is, or I can just Google it. Let's see. What did the child income tax credit cost? Keep going, Alex, while I Google.
Yeah. Okay. And if you dig further deep into defense spending, it goes into all of these different categories where you can see where the most money in terms of concentrated with regards to defense spending goes to. Defense Working Capital Fund and defense. But anyway, of that national defense, it's about $581 billion, B with $1 billion, in only the second quarter of 2026.
You said it was 580 billion.
Yeah, at $581.6 billion.
Because we've spent almost $1 trillion on total defense. What's the 500 billion over?
The 500 is just the Department of Defense, the military. So it's broken up. You have
it's not spending on military health care. We spent
right. It's not.
We've spent $500 billion just on weapons so far through 4 months of this year. So we can multiply that by 3. We're going to spend we're on pace to spend $1.5 trillion on weapons. Not even supporting our troops and for the record, veterans benefits is not included anywhere in defense spending. I need y'all to know that all we spend on veterans.
It's a separate agency.
That's a separate agency and does not even qualify as military spending. So we're on pace to spend $1.5 trillion on weapons alone. Child income tax credit which lifted so many children out of poverty, cost in 2025 cost $128 billion. It cost a tenth. It cost a tenth of what we were spending on weapons alone.
And that's a calendar year.
Over the calendar year, yeah. I've equalized them so that they're both over the calendar year. And I can tell you that I have felt more impact on my life from the child income tax credit than I have from all the money we've spent on weapons combined.
Yeah, and yeah. So I highly encourage anybody who watches this, please go to usaspending.gov and go to the Explorer. And
it's
again,
really
think about absolutely. And if you think about what David said, you can kind of really dig in and you can look to see where all of these, you got the Defense Healthcare Program, you have operations and maintenance, you have the entire apparatus, research, development, test, and it just, so you have all of these things and you can go even deeper in them. And And
the thing that kills me about you need to spend money on research and development, but I don't want to focus too much on defense spending because we've already done that a ton. But it's what we are spending, the fact that like the Tomahawk missiles is a great example again, because they're so expensive to make. They cost like, I think, roughly $2.5 million per missile.
Yeah.
And we're using Tomahawk missiles to shoot down like $50,000 Iranian drones. And so because the U.S. defense budget is so astronomical and basically has no ceiling and they can spend whatever they want, they create these massively expensive weapons that are in a lot of ways not useless in a war, significantly less useful, because we've spent all this money on $1 million missiles, but we found that these countries with smaller military budgets are able to defeat us because they're smarter about how they spend their money, because they realize, hey, if they're gonna spend $2 million to shoot down a $50,000 drone, we're actually, even though like they're scoring the military win, Iran is winning that because they are draining our resources at such a rate that, I don't know, you do the math, $50,000 worth over $2 million. Like that's where they get us. The United States military budget is like Al Davis in the draft room. Like they're just like who runs fast, baby?
Who's running the fast? Hey, man! Look, I gotta tell you guys a quick story. One of the things that when I played football, the very very brief time I did, my brother would always do kind of what Al Davis, when he would look at a game, he'd be like, he would not like what he would see, so he'd call down. And then whoever he talked to would talk to the coach, and the would be like, "Hey, boss said go deep." So when he said boss said go deep, all right, well, hey man, screw the run game, screw whatever we had here. Just, hey, who's the fastest person on the team?
And that is how it seems like as Americans, that's how it seems we put our budget together. But we've spent plenty of time railing against the amount of money we have spent on our defense budget. Carter, I know you. Speaking of child income tax credit, you had to step away for your own little one. Did you have anything
Doing all right, man?
to add on that before we moved on?
Nah, spring break. Yeah. Anyway,
Rugrats, man.
I think that honestly, the thing about this, and I think this helps us get into like other, whether it be Social Security or any of these other social safety net programs, they persist because the idea is that high unemployment or basically giving people government aid means they won't work. That's the theory of the case all the time. If you give people a handout, then they're not going to work to earn it. But when in fact happens, like when they took away the tax credits, they took away other things after the pandemic, people still didn't go back to work because people left to work maybe because they didn't want to get sick, or maybe because they didn't have childcare, or maybe because they didn't want to be sexually harassed, or like maybe like any number of other reasons, or maybe that the job they were working at paid them so little that they found a way with just a little bit of money they were getting to be able to survive, right? Because they were so underpaid. And so we're just asking the wrong questions. The theory of the case has fundamentally been wrong to make the assumption that poor people are idle and unmotivated. Like, I think in truth, it's that we've had to create conditions so that rather than relying on the government, we rely on corporations. Like, that's what has been created with our current capitalist framework. And because of that, corporations have, in the elimination of labor unions, they have just basically unmitigated power to just extract so much from us because we have no bargaining. We have no bargaining capacity within this system. And so that's how you end up with this mythology, right? That this tax credit makes people lazy. So for
child income tax credit makes people lazy. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm telling you, man, this is the narrative. Like, this is, if you go back to
No, I'm not questioning the narrative. I'm questioning the validity of the narrative.
Yeah, and it'd be the people who like says I want you to have more kids and big families, and it's the people who seem to be pro family. Like, these things are so contradictory. But anywho, all right, where are we gonna rank this one? Man,
you rank that thing all the way to the top.
Yeah, no,
like that. When you bring when you the richest country in the world, we found a way. We found a way.
And they were like, nah. They were like, nah.
Yeah. I love this title, David. More of this, damn it.
More of this, damn it tier. Child tax credit. Yeah. Come on, we think lifting children out of poverty is not a worthwhile endeavor? Get the fuck out of here. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
Like truly.
Alex, what do you want to talk about next?
So I want to connect that with SNAP. And I think that's also very, very important. So currently, right now, um, SNAP is accounts for 50, and if I'll share my screen with everybody so they can see exactly what SNAP is. So this is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and Nutrition Services, and this is obviously connected to the Department of Agriculture. 50.3 billion
That's a steal.
right now. Yeah. It's so messed up. David's like, that's a steal.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? For
mean-
for what, like, for like 7% of what we spend on weapons, we can make sure our population is food secure?
Right.
Oh, that sounds like a good investment to me.
I mean, it now, and so because
Listen,
it's broke.
running the ball for 4.5 yards a pop isn't sexy, but
But it
it's gonna
works.
win you. It's gonna win you championships.
Absolutely. And one of the great things I love about the government website, as you can see, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper to see how much in terms of the SNAP benefits are doled out to each state. Because we're run by the most efficient government ever, it just keeps generating data and it just keeps buffering. Shout out
this really is
to
perfect. We can't have
shout
a
out to the
working
most
website.
right. You can't have a competent government, man. I think FDR they would be so envious of this group. But basically, if you can see, it's like
Our government
50.3
trying
billion.
to put together a working website where we can appropriately see the budget is like Chris Sims trying to call a John Gruden play in the huddle.
X2 wide banana. And he's like, wait, hold on.
Do it again.
Do it again. Yeah, no, and anyway, so I think so. SNAP is one of the, and I'll stop sharing now. SNAP is one of the really important food assistance. One of the things that I attend the church where Dr. Carter preaches, and the Loft LA at Westwood United Methodist. If you don't know, please, we're not a religious podcast, but it's like the man is speaking and spitting truth. But he often talks about food insecurity, right? And when he says relying on corporations, so if you don't have SNAP, what you have to do is rely on the community, right? So you would have these meal trains, but now you're asking people who can barely afford food to then extend that and make food for other people. Now that's a beautiful thing. Community is beautiful, but our tax dollars should be going to at least assisting some of the most vulnerable people, because in the end, even for the people who are just craving about money, it's going to end up costing us more money anyway. So, Dr. Carter, if you could talk about this idea of like the mindset of people who are food insecure and kind of their day to day, and like how SNAP has been so important.
I think, and honestly, this is a way for us to talk about this, and then we can get into the, I know we have on here the food, what was the other one that we had for
The farm subsidies.
Yeah, the farm subsidies, because these two things are interconnected. And so what happens is, like, when you are hungry, like, honestly, when you are actually, so I should back up and actually say, so my book, The Spirit of Soul Food, is a book about food justice and environmental justice, particularly within Black communities, but also poor communities. And so, like, interestingly, a lot of poor white people in those communities really gravitate towards the book as well. And I've had the chance to speak to a lot of predominantly white audiences who come from poor rural communities who resonated with it, because what I point out is the power that these large, honestly, corporations have when they go into rural communities, and they end up forcing people to end up getting on SNAP benefits, like, Walmart or some of these other rural, like, farm worker communities, where you are dependent upon, even though you have a job, you still need to get supplementary nutrition assistance. And then you're dependent upon that grocery store to carry the kinds of things that you can buy, because that money doesn't cover everything, right? So you have to have a grocery store that has a certain kind of things that you can buy. And if they don't have enough or they run out, then you're literally SOL. Like, you're screwed. And so, like, I literally remember eating just like eating bread and syrup, giving my sister like the more food that I thought she would need to just get through the day. I remember growing up, and my first 2 meals would be school breakfast and school lunch, and then maybe have something for dinner, because we just didn't have, because we're just crazy. We're just ridiculously poor. That's just basically what it is. And so what happens is my mom used to have to hustle, and like she would, buy food stamps from junkies, and she would just do what she needed to do to make sure we could have some food in the house. And that was for like a couple of years. And so I think for me, the consequence of that is, now in my mid 40s, seeing the long-term health consequences of, dental consequences, all kinds of stuff from just not having proper nutrition. And quite honestly, even in hindsight, realizing how much that probably impacted my ability to think in school, why teachers, like I was not, I was not on track to be Dr. Carter, I tell you that, when I was in school, And so all these things, when you see the impact it has, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I'm grateful for the church and other spaces that enabled us to be able to, food banks, for instance. But all these interventions, I think this is where I'm going to take it, and we can move. You cannot have enough private intervention because churches, as I said, we don't make enough money to be able to feed people like that. Like the myth is that, this should be, alms is what they would historically call it. Like it should be charity. That would free people, but that's impossible given the cost of food and the amount of money for that to happen. Like this is a structural government problem that needs to be solved in that way. And so having hungry children and parents who struggle like this, all it does is create the conditions for people to be resentful, and it ends up costing more money because they can't because you're put them in a position where it's difficult for them to actually fend for themselves, and makes them desperate. People get desperate, they do crazy stuff. And so it's something that's just really, we can put my book in the show notes. Like I there's so much more I can say on this because I literally wrote a book on it. But
it's expensive. it's expensive to be poor.
And man, I'm telling you, that's such a great way to put it. Like we had to work hard to afford to be poor.
Yeah. Like you don't have proper nutrition, so your dental health deteriorates. You don't have a proper mattress to sleep on, so your back health deteriorates. So you can't afford to see a doctor for your hurt back. So it continues to get worse until you actually genuinely hurt yourself, and then you go to the emergency room. And if you don't have insurance, guess who? The public's gonna foot the bill for that. And so it's actually cheaper to just support these people from the beginning, and we're going to end up spending less money than when we end up picking up the catastrophe bill at the end of it. So not only is it the morally just thing to do, it's also the fiscally responsible. It's not just altruistic to take care of people, like it's fiscally responsible on our part to do it. But that's neither here nor there. I think that is that. What do we think? Is that a good place to jump in to maybe talk a little bit about Medicaid and Medicare healthcare spending? I think we're putting. We were on farm subsidies.
We are.
Yeah, let me do this one. I do farm.
No,
so I
that's
think
my bad. That's my bad.
This one I think is a we need more of it, because quite honestly, it's similarly in terms of getting it won't get you out of poverty, but it makes sure that long term it actually probably does reduce poverty, because it gives people the actual food and nutrition they need to not end up in conditions that create poverty, right? Mental health and all that kinds of stuff.
So I'm putting SNAP under more of this, damn it.
Yeah. And I think when we get into farm subsidies, this is the crazy part, right? Farm subsidies, again, are the things where we have farm subsidies are huge, but they go to corporations. And so this is the frustrating part when you talk about hunger in this country. We shifted from an agriculture to an maybe up until pre-World War II to an agribusiness model, with the idea being that the idea was supposed to be that we would give people subsidies, these corporation subsidies, and eventually we'd be able to wean them off of the subsidies. But now this is funny. We did create a dependency, because these corporations are if you're going to give us this money, we're actually going to invest in monoculture. We're going to take those old chemicals from the war, or we're going to make our land so inefficient, or we can grow it as one thing. And so we're importing a lot of things.
Bananas.
But literally bananas, right? And so this is what's wild, is this is one of those things where we actually need the subsidies we have, but they go to corporate farmers rather than to actual working class regular farmers. The last thing I'll say, because I know we don't need to spend a lot of time on this, is if you are on, and none of you are, on farm or like TikTok, because I am, right? And what you see happening since Trump took office is the things they voted for with the tariffs is killing them. It's killing them. All these rural, like, and it's probably like 80% of rural farmers were Trumpers. 20% knew. They're like, nah, this is terrible. Even though they're Republican, like, nope, this is going to cost us money. That 80% is so, they're like, I don't have anybody. I can't, what am I going to do? And then they're snatching up the farm workers. No one's here to cultivate my land. No one's here to work my fields. And I'm like, could you have voted for the person that snatched them up? You know? So now you can't, you got no money to buy seed. You got no people to actually plant and grow it, and now like, this is a situation they put themselves in. And so, like,
so I'm putting I'm putting farm subsidies under our good section of the tier, underneath more of this, damn it, and I'm naming this tier, we're doing it wrong. This is good, but we're doing it wrong.
100%.
And we're absolutely doing it wrong. And because of all the tariffs and everything that Dr. Carter said, the farmers they need bailouts, right?
Yep.
Now, we associate bailouts with bank bailouts, right? And all of this, we could, anyway, and it goes back to, we're doing this, this could work, but we're doing it wrong. You know, the bank bailouts, we could have done something different in terms of having a better way in which to regulate the banks. And so with farm subsidies, they said about last year is about $30.5 to $42.4 billion roughly in subsidies and payments to U.S. farmers. And as what Carter said about, you know, in terms of private companies and investment firms, they're starting to grow their share of farmland. And they have about 6.5% total farmland, but you also have foreign investments and foreign companies who are
buying up American farmland.
Buying up American farmland. And it's like, God, America, boy, what is wrong with you, girl? You are just selling yourself off.
It's like Jerry Jones building a roster. You know what I mean? Like
Look at you.
He clearly cares, and but he's doing it wrong. You know, like he's doing it with the wrong investment. Like Jerry's building a roster to make media splashes and be good, instead of just building a roster to compete and win championships. And that's what we do in our farm subsidies. We are giving subsidies away to corporations because that is easing, and it's easy to do that self-dealing in terms of actually doing the hard work, which is to feed our fucking populace.
David, I think you're exactly right with that comp. Do you know why? Because and your comp fits perfectly with America, because Jerry Jones, if you ever look at the draft room, he's at the head. He's at the head of the draft room, and he's over here making calls. Not the experts or the scouts or the people who really know, hey,
Jerry.
These are the right. Jerry is like, you know, I like that boy. You gotta say boy, because you're talking about Jerry Jones. He's like, I like that boy. Let's go grab him.
The slave vernacular in tone at which he talked, the way he talks about black men genuinely makes me uncomfortable, that I want to move on to our next topic.
If you told me he fought for the Confederacy and he's that old, I'd believe it.
I mean,
if you told me he's on a master roll.
Stop. You're doing a hypothetical, and I'm giving a real thing. So stop for a second. Jerry Jones, if you go back to the civil rights pictures of white people yelling at the integration of schools, Jerry Jones is literally in one of those fucking pictures. Of course he would fight for the Confederacy. We don't have to pretend. We have the visual proof. We know. Moving on. Sorry, I got that got me a little. I got a little much with that one, y'all. You got.
I loved
me
it.
on that one.
I loved it. He turned a little red. I was like, yeah, there he is. He's coming out, baby.
The evidence. What do we want to talk about? We were talking about Jerry Jones. So you want to talk about tax breaks for the wealthy?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't expecting the transition to be so smooth. You were like, oh, yeah.
No, that's good. I mean, to me, this is where, like, we don't realize, and for me, this was like the genesis of how I wanted to get into this topic, because of the fact of like corporate welfare. The fact that like most of the tax breaks in our country go to the people who deserve it the least. Like, and people will say, well, they pay more in taxes. Well, proportionally to their income, they pay the least amount of taxes. And we have so much regressive tax, like a sales tax. That's a regressive tax on poor people. We shouldn't have a sales tax. You shouldn't have, like, I gotta pay a tax just to get some groceries, right? Like, that makes literally no sense that I'm paying the same amount of sales tax as Bill Gates, right? Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't make in all that stuff should be wrapped up in a broad income tax. And so what happens is when you have these, like we're able to frame the arguments that these people are quote unquote job creators or whatever they do with this additional income that they are getting. But what in fact is happening is they continue to hoard their wealth and they place it in like so they aren't as impacted when the economy goes bad, because rather than investing in either people or jobs or anything like that, they invested in like stocks and they invested in commodities. They invested in things so that like they don't have to work, quote unquote. Like that's the situation we get ourselves in. And so to me, these tax breaks that are designed to stimulate our economy, like history shows they don't work. And yet you still have conservative people who vote for them time and again because of I'm telling you, it's the myth of I earned it, so it's mine that I want to share, and the myth of the quote unquote lazy person. Like it's all just built on lies. And that's the thing it's insane. Like literally, I don't know what else to describe. Like it is insane to continue to give these, like I don't know why we think that rich people deserve more money. Like there's something that's like, oh, they're rich, let's give them some more. I'm just like, what is wrong with you? They got plenty of money. Like, why do you think they should have more money?
Let me talk to MAGA for a second, because I know we have a huge MAGA audience. I'm obviously kidding, but we talk about make America great again. Like we need to go back to the 1950s. When we had back to America's glory age. That's what they want, right? You want to know what the highest bracket of marginal tax rate was in the 1950s? 91%. 91%. So cool. Like you want to, and listen, obviously, everything was incredibly segregated, and that's part of what they're talking about. But if we're going to talk about it, like, let's have the conversation. Like, you want to have, the kind of society that has room for joy. People need to have time away from work to have that joy, and the way they do that is by taxing the richest at a fair amount, so that we have an equal share of wealth. Because right now it's all the way at the top. If you want to have this country have any sort of semblance of social happiness, there needs to be some semblance of economic equality, which has to come from our tax code.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this movie before. It's the same movie when Republicans get in office. They start wars and do tax cuts and take away benefits that help the public. It's rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying?
And they lose the next election, and then
they lose the next election, and then we have collective amnesia again.
I'm gonna for this tier, I'm gonna go with, obviously, like we're talking about tax breaks. We're gonna put this in the bad category, and I'm gonna put this on the other side of we're doing it wrong again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because tax breaks 100%.
Tax break can do good, but we're giving tax breaks to the wrong people.
Yep. So like we spent $1.8 trillion in tax breaks in 2021. I was trying to find that number because that's the most recent data I could find. That's insane.
That's a lot. That's somehow we're spending more money on tax breaks than we are bombs. Good job, America.
So say that figure again, Dr. Carter.
$8 trillion in tax breaks in 2021.
1.8.
That amount exceeded the total spending on law enforcement, education, housing, healthcare, diplomacy, and everything else that makes up our discretionary budget. So that's obviously not including defense. Like literally everything else.
Man.
And the thing is, like, people don't, we was it like 96% of us? Yeah, 96% of Americans relied on major government programs at some point in their lives, including rich people. And like we don't even think about it like that, because the way we talk about state dependency doesn't include things like 401ks or 501cs, all these other kinds of investments that we get, like the way we subsidize healthcare if you have a job. Like all that's government welfare. We just don't name it like that. In other countries, other countries, they make it really explicit. We shade it, make it sound like you earned it, and that's a part of the problem. So anyway, what's the next thing?
Medicaid, healthcare spending.
Yeah. Did you say?
This is, again, it's like you get to like a way of thinking about what is actually a good long-term investment, right? Keeping people healthy, so they actually can, like, continue to quote unquote work, to not have to end up going to hospitals to where you have to foot the bill, right? To actually spur medical advancements, like all these things that we know are collective goods, right? We're just like, let's cast it aside, and it's counterproductive to what they actually say they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think to me this honestly goes into maybe shockingly is we're doing it wrong. I think obviously healthcare spending is a great thing, but the way we've set up our healthcare system it's like everything else. It's like police don't prevent crime. Hope in a perfect world, police solve crime. They don't really, but that's another conversation. And it's like, so we've set up our healthcare to react to health episodes, when it should be set up as preventative care, but this ties back into spending on SNAP. You know what I mean? Because if you have kids that are if you have kids and families that are food insecure, like they're already making poor health choices out of force. And so we are already, I mean, Dr. Carter talked about this, about his teeth, that you are running into dental problems in your 40s because you had an improper diet as a child because you were poor. And so, your healthcare spending is increased later in life because we didn't properly invest in you early in life. And guess what? It would have just been cheaper to give you $2 meals, because that's what a meal costs when someone is on SNAP. You know what I mean? And so if we're doing it wrong, if we make these investments on the front end, we will spend less money. And so, yeah, healthcare spending is great, but we need to change the way that we do it. On
the upside, when I get my new teeth put in, they are very white. And so it looks like I got teeth. Even though technically they're just veneers.
They're just new teeth.
I just got they're just new teeth. But they're like, man, that'd be like that tooth look white. Like, man, that'll like, nice. That's the only upside.
All the other teeth in your mouth looking at like that new tooth.
No, well, actually, no, because about half my teeth are actually half have been replaced. Like, this is the crazy part, and I know this was not the point, but that was the point I wanted to get at. Like, literally, because dental insurance isn't a part of Medicaid. Like, it's not a part of this stuff. And so I didn't know. I went to the dentist like a handful of times when I was a kid because we just didn't have the money, right? Yeah. And so, like, again, long-term consequence. And I'm fortunate that I have the finances to pay for this now, but it ain't cheap. But I can't be up in church like looking, I gotta keep looking nice, keep looking nice, man.
You can't have people distracted.
Face of God's gotta look good.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen really, really quick one more time to show Medicaid spending really quick. Medicaid spending, as you can see, is about $429 billion as of February 27th. As we're into the second quarter of 2026.
Still spending more money on bombs than healthcare.
Hello. And so a lot of these obviously are grants to states and for Medicaid and Centers for Medicaid and all these other things. So this $429 billion to support the entire country in terms of Medicaid that's not that much.
It's a good investment.
It's a great investment. And I think we could get more in return, like you said, David, if we can do more on the front end instead of on the back end, and not everybody's in the position of Dr. Carter to be able to afford to do that. So Medicaid let's put that up there with.
We're doing it wrong.
We're doing it wrong.
Well, if by doing it wrong, you mean we're just not giving it to more people. I mean, and just, I want to be clear, I meant to say this too, the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. Like, so
yes,
Medicaid
we're
is
lumping them
specifically,
together.
All right, cool. That's
we're lumping
right.
Medicaid, yeah. We're lumping Medicaid and Medicare together. Obviously, Medicaid serves lower income and vulnerable populations and disabled folks, and Medicare serves for old folks. Which is why Medicare will never get cut. It's because old folks show up and vote. And so politicians are afraid to cut that. So it just goes to show, and listen, I understand they're trying to make voting more difficult, but if they're trying to make it difficult, it's because it's important.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Carter.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I think that, like, when you look at the, even because elderly people still can get Medicaid and Medicare. Like, that's the thing, and even just the expansion, like, there's so many things that this actually helps spur. I guess the last thing I want to say is the people who want to start their own businesses or work for themselves or on their own, like people who are doing work where they're contract work. Like this is the kind of insurance they can have that allows them to do that. And when you make it hard to get, you make cost of living that much more. And so it literally, again, it's antithetical to the principles of capitalism they claim to be arguing for. It's just, I don't know, man. It's so, again, I'm just like, these people.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's
Mr.
just too
Smith, what do you
much.
want to hit next?
I want to do Social
IRS,
Security because
Social
I want to hit Social Security next because that ties into what we're talking about. But actually, we should tier this in more of this, damn it, because you want to expand Social Security in a way, and you want to, number one, you want to lower the age of Social Security. I mean, when Social Security was started, very few people could actually receive the benefits because folks at that time weren't living long enough. And one of the other reasons, if you think about Social Security, you want to talk about lifting people out of poverty, you have elderly people who cannot work anymore or not physically fit, particularly if they worked a hard labor job. They should not have to try to live with their children if they don't have to. Because back in the day, you'd have these intergenerational households, but then you would have the eldest child typically having to take care of the parents. And that's extra mouths to feed in a country that still wasn't paying people a living wage. And so Social Security made sure that elderly folks were not going to slip into poverty, and that a system they would pay into a system that they would be able to live off of on a fixed income. We need more of this, damn it, and we actually need more money, because you have, in the rising housing costs, particularly in Los Angeles, people who are on fixed income who are being priced out of their home. Because when you're on a fixed income and Social Security isn't giving you enough, to kind of keep on the cost of living. Well, so we need more of it. We need more.
And it's coming back. This is a term. It's called the sandwich generation, and it's really hitting millennials hard right now. You're seeing, because we have kids, but we also have aging parents, and we have to support our kids because they're kids, and the government hasn't appropriately set up systems to care for our parents. So, people in their 30s and 40s right now are caring for both their children and their elderly, and we wonder why we look so tired.
Yeah, well, I mean, there we go. But I think this is it goes into both categories of we need more of it and we're doing it wrong. And by that I mean like we need to expand access to it, and also there needs to be a way for people to be able to be on either like a disability pathway, so that even if they know they're going to get it, they have the opportunity to either still, to be able to have some kind of job or something that gives them some kind of fulfillment. Like what they do in other countries is, if you are disabled, like they have other government, like you could be working in a library, or like things that perhaps you physically couldn't do at your other place. But then the thing is, and what people don't realize is that you still need purpose. Like you still need purpose. Otherwise, like you create mental health problems. Yes. And so like because again, I said my wife worked for them for a long time. Like we need to be much more creative in terms of how we think about the things people need to flourish and not just survive. And this is one of the things, especially when you talk about elderly people, right? Like, how many spaces like are people that actually they could be like working with kids and giving them some of the wisdom, like volunteering at schools, like different pathways to give them get them connected. And so it's definitely, we need more, and it needs to be done in a way that gives people access to it. And at the same time, I have to understand, I do need to say this because I know I'm hearing her in my head. We have to recognize, people are going to say, oh, there's waste and fraud. There's probably going to be about 5 to 7% of waste and fraud in there. You literally can't do anything about it, because that's like a lost leader. Like you have to accept that some people are going to exploit it, but the vast majority of people are not. And that's getting it,
I think you bring up a really valid point about waste and fraud, because studies on waste and fraud, specifically when we're talking about like Medicare and Social Security, when you add in more hoops to jump through, when you add in more paperwork and more verification to prevent that waste and fraud, studies have shown what ends up happening is you don't weed out the waste and fraud.
Exactly.
You weed out the poorest
people
who can't actually jump through those hoops. Because the fraudsters, this is their job.
Yep.
This is what they do. So they're invested, and they're invested in learning what the loops and hoops are and how to jump through them. The person who is desperate to survive doesn't have that energy. And so when you even if you have the best intentions, which oftentimes I don't believe our government does when they attack waste and fraud, even if you do have the best of intentions, you end up not preventing the waste and fraud and just hurting the most vulnerable populations.
Yeah, and shout out to Rick Scott, former governor of Florida and senator from Florida, who had a massive Medicare $2 billion Medicare fraud, baby.
And he's still
he's
what
a senator.
punishment did Rick Scott face for $2 billion in Medicare fraud? Where Nick Shirley knock on his fucking door.
Right. Instead of looking for dogs who are registered to vote in California that we already fixed anyway. But I think I
think this to me this takes us to the IRS.
I
love it.
I want to get into that. Like fund it more. Fund them, give them money. You know what? Like, because I pay my taxes. Like, I ain't worried about the count to me. I'm like, you know what? Like, because there's so many wealthy people who are literally hiding their money in overseas accounts or there's other kinds of things so that they're not paying their fair share. And there's there's been so much research that's gone into it. I know the Obama administration and the Biden administration started to increase the funding to IRS to be able to start trying to do the work they need to do to actually get some of the people that owed money, like these large, back. And then as soon as Trump got in both times, just continue to defund it, right? Continue to defund it. And like the crazy part is like it's money that people owe, right? Like they're supposed to pay it, and it would fund so many other things. That these programs that we're talking about, if we actually collected the appropriate tax revenue.
So this is, and I just Googled this, so I'm reading an AI overview on this, so take it with perhaps a grain of salt, but it sounds right. Increased IRS funding, particularly the $80 billion that came from the Inflation Reduction Act, is projected to generate $200 to $500 billion in additional revenue over the next 10 years. And so investing in the IRS is quite literally a beneficial financial investment, because we know that it's like spending money on a sales team, on a sports sales team, when you're not selling out your ticket. Like, yeah, sure, having a better team is going to help, but like having people out there, like, it's enforcement. It's audit enforcement, and it's able to bring in more money. And the only reason why we don't do this is, again, because a budget is our reflection of our moral values, and our moral values is rich people need more money, and we're going to squeeze everything we can out of the poor because our country is run by oligarchs.
So we'll put this link in the show notes, and I'll put it in here. So I couldn't remember the name of it, but I'm thankfully I just Googled it and kept finding it. It was the Panama Papers that came out a few years ago, and it says so. This was ProPublica's research, and they found that wealthy individuals hide trillions in assets via offshore shell companies, trust structures, and tax havens. These methods, often labeled as tax avoidance, allow billionaires to pay an effective tax rate of only 4.8% by holding untaxed, unrealized stocked gains, right? So literally unearned income is what we used to call it. Now they don't call it that. Now it's unrealized. Now this is unearned. Like, you ain't earned this junk, right? And like that needs to be, to me, like that gives it a degree of shame that I think it needs to have, right? Like unearned. So anyway.
We're like, in terms of we're like NBA officiating, where rich people are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and everyone else.
Oh man, just a free throw merchant, man. Hey, before he even gets the shot up, whistle going off, man. I mean,
and it just shows, like, we are a country, we are a country for rich people by rich people. What's that? It's not going to sound as good as FUBU.
No. All right, so where are we putting this one?
We got unemployment benefits, and we got Alex, hit us with a little knowledge on spending on interest.
So we have a debt, national debt, and so the debt gets serviced, or we have to pay the interest on the debt. So it's like if you have a car payment and you're actually not paying anything on the principal, you're just paying the interest. You just on whatever you owe. You're not really making a dent in the amount of the loan that you took. So we have, and I'm trying to see if I could pull it up. We have interest payments on the debt, and yeah, so interest on public debt, Bureau of the Fiscal Service. So that's about 520 billion as of quarter two. That's not a lot.
It's not a lot?
I mean, not that much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think compared to what goes out, like, I mean, again, it's like it's just we current money going out so far is 4.4 trillion. It's going to exceed probably 6-7 trillion. Like, we're not going to have the money, you know what I'm saying, the revenue to come in. So yeah, it's not good. Not good. But anyway, I mean, for the Republicans who love being deficit hawks and,
Okay.
you know, talking about the deficit and all the deficit spending that we're doing, it's just like, you know,
Because they're full of crap.
yeah,
So where do
yeah,
you want
it's,
to where do you want to rank this, or where do you want to put it?
I kind of want to say we're doing it wrong, because I think we need to pay more on our national debt. But the only way to be able to do that is to be able to get more revenue.
Taxes. We need to actually have people
Taxes.
pay their taxes.
Taxes.
Now,
Yeah.
is this a we're doing it wrong but it's good, or we're doing it wrong but it's bad?
No, we're doing it wrong, but it's good. I mean, we have to pay. This is good because, you know, think about all the
Gotta pay your
foreign
bills.
entities who own our debt, and our debt is going to be worthless very soon
Yep.
if we don't do
Which-
something now. So
And if that happens, then we have crazy inflation
Crazy.
with respect to our
Yes.
So this is I see you now. I feel this makes sense. This makes sense now.
You know?
I dig it.
yeah,
All right. So what's the last one?
Unemployment benefits.
All right. So again, this goes back to, I think we can go back to the pandemic and still see how this is a critically important for people to have some time in between jobs, basically to make sure they can take care of themselves. Again, we know that during the pandemic, when people weren't able to work, this gave them the time to take care of their families, to make sure that they weren't hungry, to make sure they could find a job that actually was going to be a living wage rather than just take any job, which again continues to suppress wages. And it continues to dismantle the myth that people don't want to work. That just isn't true. Like that's just not. Like there's a very, very few people who actually don't want to work. Majority of people want to have purpose and meaning, which work is a part of that. And so,
And you were talking about disabled people. Disabled people especially want to work. When you make accommodations for disabled
Yep.
folks, like no one works harder
Yeah.
than disabled folks. Just plain and simple.
So yeah, no, to me, like this is like critically important. We need to continue to have it. We need to give people access to it, and we need to stop shaming people around it. You know. So yeah, that's how I feel.
I want to real quick. I don't think we. I think I want to put this in more of this. Damn it. Category, but I think that even more, we need a universal basic income. Like screw just unemployment benefits or unemployment insurance, which I think might be a slightly different thing that Alex can touch on. But like, we need just a general social safety net that is like, hey, you know, if we want to have the belief that every human life is valuable, which the Republican Party seems to be pretty invested in, then we should be willing to invest that every human life can have a dignified one, and we should make the investment to ensure that happens.
yeah. No, I think that's really important, and it's honestly kind of a drop in the bucket. And I don't have the exact figures in terms of the that number, but I mean it's really important, and it's basically what is it, 12 to 18 months of a that's how they figure out the calculations of your earnings in the last 12 to 18 months, and that's how they kind of figure that out. But you know, it's replacing 50% of your lost wages. So you're still not getting enough, you know. How about this? If you were a Tomahawk missile, then you'd be more valuable to the U.S. government. And I think that
we never send out half a Tomahawk missile.
right, or a piece of one. We don't just throw it. But I think all of these things are, as Dr. Carter said earlier, very interventions, but they need to be both robust and more, and like literally the moral of this whole story and podcast is one of the things I've learned, I told David, is that people don't make enough money to live, is that people don't make a living wage in this country, and therefore our government has to almost sometimes overcompensate for what corporations, and that's what Dr. Carter said, corporations are not going to save you. So to believe that, you know what I'm saying? So it's either, you know, and the wealthier people who don't want everybody, you know, leeching off the government, just them. And I'm like, well, pay people more money. If you pay people more money, less people will need government benefits. People will be able to do the basic things that they
Walmart.
need. Exactly. Like, come on. You know what I mean? And so like, I think another thing I wanted to jump back just a brief moment when you talk about folks with disabilities. Americans with Disability Act did not happen like, you know, peacefully. You know, those folks, and it was mostly folks who had disabilities. Highly recommend the movie Crip Camp. It will make you cry, but it's like you saw that these folks who were jettisoned in the bowels of schools were the ones who brought the United States government to their knees. And both the Carter administration and then fully the Americans with Disability Act and the Bush administration. So the unlikely heroes are out there. And so I think you can have kind of a moment like that in the next couple of years where I think the ground is fertile and the public really are starting to understand and feel the squeeze of what's going on right now. And so I think tax time is a great reminder to say it's like, what could we be doing more of and what could we do less? What could we deal less with? And so anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I think that's a really solid point, in that we need to, you know, we're just gonna show our final tier here. Carter, you want to give us some final thoughts? So we're putting unemployment under. We need more of this, damn it! And I think as we look at our final tier list, we are seeing that we need a lot more social services in our country, right, Carter?
Yeah, no, I think for us the issue has always been how are we going to actually appropriately use our taxes, you know, and I think it's so interesting to me when you think about like, oh my gosh, his name just escaped me. Alex, you're going to remember the person who said no taxation without representation. Was it John Hancock? It wasn't. Oh,
yeah, it might be. Yeah,
it might be John.
No, either that or Sam Adams.
Maybe
it might.
It was Sam Adams. It was Sam.
It
Adams.
might have been Sam Adams. Yeah.
And so, like, to me, like, this is the thing: is you have our quote unquote country founded on this idea about no taxation without representation, and then what we do is we make it almost impossible for people who are taxed the most to have adequate representation with how we structure the government. Like, that's all it is. The billionaires, tons of representation, pay the least amount of taxes. Like regular working class, regular people have the least amount of representation, pay the most in taxes. And so for me, you know, it's really about what kind of community you want. That's all it is. And if we could see that by not investing in each other, all we end up doing is hurting ourselves. To me, that's like the pathway that we can begin to move forward. But unless and until we begin to look at that kind of work of people like who try to think of the author of the book, The Sum of Us, who makes the same kind of argument in terms of like essentially how racism and discrimination cost us more money.
Heather McGee, yeah.
More money. Yeah, Heather McGee. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that's all it is.
Yeah. I really appreciate y'all sitting down and hearing about how we spend our money, and really think about, you know, who are you in community with? You know, are we in community with Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, or are we in community with our neighbors? Because those are the people that we need to be connecting with and building community and building power with, so that our government responds to us and not just the oligarchy. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Pay your taxes.
No, fucking rich people, pay your taxes.
Pay your taxes.
Rich people.
Folks, pay your taxes.
Rich folks, pay your taxes.